When you're a CEO or a head of sales or a manager of anything, you are called to love the people under your charge. I felt like I was never enough. And I thought maybe when I got to be 25, it would be enough. Oh no, it's 35, 45, 55. And it's like, oh yeah, I'm still not enough. It's time to realize I'm enough. The best way you can develop a relationship is by being vulnerable, by trusting your heart to somebody. Find those people around you, let them know where you are, and let them love you through it. Selling is serving, but it requires that we're actually willing to say, I love you enough to do something that would be hard for me, which might be, I'm not going to close this deal because I don't think it's good for you. It really starts with people need to know that their leader is willing to say, I know who I am. I know my good things. I know my drawbacks. I know that I've done good things. I know I've made mistakes. And when a leader can do that, the power that unleashes in the organization, because then other people can say, yeah, me too. Every company is smart enough. I mean, we have the internet now. Everybody knows everything. But what differentiates is what's the heart look like?
Welcome to the Culture from the Heart podcast on the From the Heart Business Network. In a business world where employees and customers crave authenticity and trust, hosts Larry Levine and Darrell are on a mission to find and showcase heart-centered executives and the companies they lead. You are about to hear an inspiring conversation with a visionary leader that's bringing heart into the workplace, empowering employees, serving their clients, and uplifting communities, all to create true success. This is Culture from the Heart. The movement starts here. Let's begin.
Welcome to Culture from the Heart. I'm your co-host, Darrell, here today with Larry Levine, and we're joined by one of our favorite authors and leaders, Patrick Lencioni. He's the founder and president of the Table Group, the organizational health people. Pat, it's great to have you here.
I can't wait to talk to you guys. This is going to be so fun. I love what you do.
Oh, thank you. We've been looking forward to this.
Well, as we get started, Pat, you know the question that every guest on Culture from the Heart answers. I'm really curious to hear your answer to what does Culture from the Heart mean to you?
Well, you know, it's so funny because the idea that culture would be anything else, it's like, it's not culture from the mind. And, you know, when we talk about organizational health, essentially what we're talking about is it's the heart of the organization, which is its greatest competitive advantage. And every company is smart enough. I mean, we have the internet now. Everybody knows everything. But what differentiates is what's the heart look like? And so that's the centerpiece of what a human being is, and that's what a company is. And when you sell, it's not the features and functions. It's about how you come across and how you connect with people and what they believe to be true. So, you know, culture and heart, to me, it's like I can't imagine the two words existing independent of one another.
Oh, this is so good because we're just heart-centered people that believe that culture does start at the heart. But as we unpack this, Pat, where do you see this going awry, or where do you see the disconnect sometimes in the organizations you work with where they're not connecting at a heart level?
You know, I think what happens is that when people are not vulnerable. I mean, when all of the stuff we do, it starts, you know, the 5 dysfunctions of a team, we talk about trust. I mean, trust is at the heart of all human relationships. And oftentimes what's lacking is when a person can't be vulnerable, that you can't build trust with them. And that's true if you're selling to people. That's true if you're leading people. It's if you're in a personal relationship with somebody. And I think so when we find leaders in companies that have a hard time being vulnerable, they think that it's all the intellectual side of business. They're going to get through on that. And every great company that sustains success for any length of time does so because it's about the culture and it's about the heart. Now, you have to be smart enough, but in 27 years of doing what I do, I've never gone to a company and said, they're just not smart enough. Right. Many times gone in and said, they're not healthy enough. Where's the underlying passion and the reason? And so I think it goes awry when leaders are not comfortable being vulnerable, and then they create a culture that's not vulnerable, and then trust breaks down, and then it all becomes about transactional relationships and even kind of manipulation around ideas, not around human beings.
Yeah, there's the heart of the company, and then there's the heart of the leader. And, you know, I was super inspired by hearing your story about how you took some time away in this past year to really dig into your heart. Talk to us about what catalyzed that and what that looked like.
Well, let me try to give the Reader's Digest version of that. Maybe even the condensed Reader's Digest version, double condensed. So I was your kind of typical achiever my whole life, and I never knew why. I just knew I never wanted to fail. I always wanted to succeed, and that carried throughout my life in school and sports and business and everything I did, even my personal life. And I realized one day, because a dear friend said, "Hey, I think you got some childhood issues you have to work out." And so I looked into it and I realized I was afraid of failing because I didn't feel like I was worthy of anything. So I decided I wanted to go find out what that was about. So I surrounded myself with a bunch of counselors, therapists, spiritual director, started reading, watching videos, and realized that, wow, this is pretty common. And a lot of high achievers struggle with this, and they're successful, but it's never enough. And they don't really have peace around what they're doing. And gosh, and I think about in sales, how many people like, I've got to make my number, I've got to prove myself. And that is just not a good place to be. Now, the rest of the world will say, well, what's the problem? That's a high class problem. You're doing so well. And it's like, yeah, but inside I'm not at peace. So I spent 6 months after 58 years of living on this earth. I spent 6 months really going deep on this. And it was the hardest, most difficult, painful, wonderful, eye-opening process. And I just encourage, and I talked to a guy on an airplane yesterday, an executive, a very successful guy. Almost every leader I've talked to when I've shared my story, I would say 19 out of 20 go, oh, wait, I think I've got some of that too I need to look into. Nobody goes, well, good luck to you, buddy. I don't have that. It feels like it's pretty universal. We're all wounded. All of us get wounded. And sometimes our success is a function of that. And so we don't stop to go, maybe there's some things in here that I need to address. And it doesn't mean you have to walk away from success. It means you have to keep the baby and let out the bathwater. And that's what I'm trying to do right now.
Oh, that is so good. I've always shared with people, I'm 60. And I always tell people,
oh, what's that like? Because I'm going to be 60. I'm going to be 60 in 3 weeks.
Oh, I just opened that door in November of last year. But I've learned more about myself in my 50s than I did in my 20s, 30s, and 40s combined, because I always said I opened up the cupboard to who I was, and I got vulnerable with who I was.
Yes.
And I learned more, and I'm having the time of my life at 60.
Praise God.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, that is so great. And it's available to anybody. A lot of people, I mean, man, if you can go through that in your 20s, great. But a lot of people, they can't sort it out. They're not ready to. But at any age, when you go, I think that this is not the way I'm supposed to do this. And it's especially hard when you're successful, because you think, well, if I look in that cupboard, maybe I'm going to lose the things that have made me successful. But success without peace is different. So yeah, I love the fact that you're finding that now, and I am too.
I love this conversation and this challenge to leaders to do the inner work on their own heart so they can positively affect the heart of the organization is incredibly powerful. So we're going to take
you could do this in your 30s right now.
Thank you. I wish. There's special video editing software. I'm just half a decade behind you guys. So this is such an incredibly powerful concept. And as we think about our hearts as leaders, then the heart of the organization, we're going to take a quick break to hear from our sponsor. When we come back, I'd like to hear about how this is playing out inside the Table Group. See you in a moment. Let's be honest, finding the right people and building the right culture, that's the holy grail for every leader.
That's why we recommend Titus Talent, because they don't just fill seats. They help you build teams that thrive.
With their partnership plans, you get more than just hiring help. You get a committed team by your side that helps you attract top performers and retain them.
They bring strategy, data, and a human touch to talent optimization. No guesswork, just results.
So if you're ready to invest in your people and create a culture where everyone wins, head over to culturefromtheheart.com/talent to learn more.
That's culturefromtheheart.com/talent. Your culture is your competitive advantage. Design it with Titus Talent.
You're listening to Culture from the Heart. We're here today with Patrick Lencioni. Pat, thank you so much for sharing your story of going deep as a leader into your heart. And I'm curious, as you've come back into the organization and you've emerged with this new, maybe you say, awareness in your life. How is this affecting your leadership and the culture of the organization?
I was just talking to one of my co-founders last week about this. And she's like, I see this. I see the growth in you every day in every meeting we're in. Because there's just more of an acceptance and more of a thoughtfulness and slow. I'm not hurrying to succeed. I'm not afraid of, oh no, I have to address that right away. And it's amazing that, we all have so much more to grow in. And I can't wait to see what the next 10 years look like, because if I'm figuring this out right now, then I know there's a lot more to go. So it's affecting everything, because if I'm the leader of the company, my virtue affects the company and my vices affect the company, and my impatience or patience or wisdom or lack thereof does. And we are getting more done, but in a calmer, more peaceful way. We're more thoughtful because we're not acting out of fear. We're acting out of peaceful opportunity. And I'm not so worried like, oh, well, we might miss that. It's like, no, let's just do what we can do and know that, and for me, my faith is central. It's like, God knows what we need to be doing. So every day, let's just surrender to that. And so it is impacted the culture completely. But what I will say is this: I have been through probably in our company, probably 4 or 5 times, it's been 27 years, where there's been fundamental change in me and in others in our organizations. And every time we go through it, we think, well, maybe this is a time it's not going to work. Development requires this risk where you go there, you enter the danger, if you will, and you either come out of it better or you reach the end of the road. And we at the Table Group have gone through this a number of times now and realized you work through it, you keep working, you love each other through it. And sometimes a person goes, yeah, it's my time to leave. But if we're all open and willing to continue to be vulnerable, it is amazing how much deeper, more effective, and more rewarding it is when we work through these things. So this has been a big one. This has been the biggest one.
I got to circle in on the word that you use, Pat, love, just for a moment.
Oh.
And this is how my brain, I was sitting there listening and automatically this kicked in is, it's hard to love others, especially as a leader. It's hard to love others if you have a struggle to love yourself.
Oh, yeah. And if anybody thinks this is touchy-feely or soft, it is not.
No.
Somebody once said, you cannot be charitable to others if you're not charitable to yourself.
Yes.
Well, I have not been charitable to myself in much of my life. And so I'm giving out of poverty. I'm giving out of like, I don't have much. And so, and then you get frustrated and you burn out and then you have to recover. And I realize that there's nothing selfish about, love your neighbor as yourself. That implies that you love yourself. And so I'm learning to do that. And it really just means that, yeah, we're worthy. I'm worthy of God's love. I'm worthy of my wife's love, my children, my colleagues. And I love my team. I told one of them the other day, I said, I love you. And I said, and I like you. and I'm going to tell you this. When you're in sales, if you really want to be good at it, love your customer or your potential customer. And when you do that, they come to realize you're not going to try to get me to do something that would not be in my best interest. Once they realize that, you're done.
Yeah.
Then you become, you're serving them. Selling is serving, but it requires that we're actually willing to say, I love you enough to do something that would be hard for me, which might be, I'm not going to close this deal because I don't think it's good for you. And when you have that mentality, for every sale you lose, you gain 7.
Yeah.
But
beautiful.
And it really is like purify your intention. Go, I care about this person. I could get this sale and I could make their career harder and their life harder. And I could win technically at their expense. But if you just aren't willing to do that, people are going to say, what else do you have to sell? Because I just want to buy from you because you care. Mm. I mean, I'm preaching to the choir here, but that's how I've always found it in my industry.
I love it. I love it. Absolutely. Well, I'm curious, how else has this journey that you've been on positively impacted the culture inside the Table Group? I think that it's allowing us to raise people up.
and we're going through this right now because I'm just coming through this, but it's allowing us to trust even more and raise people up to take on more responsibility rather than worry about, well, they might struggle and fail. And the answer is, oh no, they will struggle and fail. And that's how you get to this place. Because the other people that report to me directly at our company, we're not very big, but I gave them responsibilities way before they thought they should have them. And then we get successful and we're like, I don't think we should do that anymore. It's like, no, we got to keep doing it. And now as I've become healthier and the team has gotten healthier, we're now saying, hey, let's give people more responsibility and raise them up and they'll be fine. They'll be fine. So it's allowing us to trust. I mean, trust and vulnerability and healing go together.
Oh, it's so good. I got to ask you this.
Yeah.
If one by one, right, we start bringing the employees of the table group on to this podcast and we asked them, now that Pat's gone through what Pat's gone through, what words would you use to describe Pat right now? What do you think they might say?
Oh, I think they would say peaceful. I think they would say thoughtful, calm, more relaxed and more focused, more joyful. And yeah, it's interesting. More resilient. Like if something happens, something happened in the last 3 months. I was at an event and somebody said something that was really, really difficult to me in front of a group of people, and it wasn't really appropriate. And in the past, I would have been frustrated, and I probably would have like debated, said, I don't think you should have said that, and here's why I don't think that's fair. And people in my team said, oh my gosh, Pat, you just stood there, and you were just like, okay. And they said everybody else in the room knew what had happened and they knew it wasn't fair. And you didn't even bother to say, I'm okay. I don't need to refute that. And which turns out to be the best thing to do. And that saved us all time and effort. And even that person who said it, I think I could be more gracious to them, knowing that they were coming from a place of woundedness too.
That right there, that is so powerful to understand, having gone through that journey into some of the wounds in your life, to understand that the people that you're working with are also coming from a perspective of woundedness. Wow.
Yeah. When you can deal with people and that you realize, oh, they have their own stuff. And some of them are aware of it. Some of them aren't. And oftentimes other people can see it. And when we can go, oh, I can give them grace and mercy because I want that. And it's wonderful when you can do that for other people. But when you're feeling insecure and you're working from a place of fear, oh man, you feel like you have to defend and prove and explain. And, like we talked about the book, Getting Naked. It's like one of the most powerful things you can do in service and sales. You just go, oh, I'm sorry, I was wrong. And people are like, really? You just admitted that? Oh yeah, I'm sorry, I was wrong. And they're like, so you're not afraid to admit that? It's like, oh no, I totally was wrong. And they're like, okay, it breeds trust.
Oh, there's just something about bravery and courage, and that ties into that.
And you know what the root in Latin of courage is? Cur, heart.
Yep.
That's right. Well, we're going to take another quick break to hear from our sponsors. And when we come back, we'll dive deeper into this conversation with Pat about what advice you'd give to other leaders who are on this journey. See you in a moment.
For many CEOs, sales feels like a black box.
You've got visibility into marketing metrics, financial dashboards, operational KPIs. But when it comes to the sales team, it feels like guesswork.
That black box, it's costing you, because if you can't see what's happening, you can't fix what's broken or fuel what's working.
That's where the Sales Index steps in. It opens the black box of sales and shows you the real story. Who's thriving, who's struggling, where they need help, and how much revenue is being left on the table.
You'll get clear, actionable data on sales behavior, mindset, and team culture, so you know exactly where to invest and how to drive growth.
So stop flying blind. Go to salesindex.ai and mention Culture from the Heart for 10% off an index of your sales team.
Sales Index, because when sales stops being a black box, you start unlocking real sales results.
Well, let's get right back to it with Patrick Lencioni. Pat, I know we have so many different leaders listening in, thinking about this journey that you've been on and how it's transforming the culture inside your organization. What advice would you give to leaders that are listening to this going, man, this seems hard, but it seems like a really good idea.
This whole development thing I've been going through recently, you mean? Yeah, vulnerability is always a little hard. And there's a difference between being vulnerable and then TMI, sharing too much information. And I'd say it's everybody's got the people that are closest to them. And if I'm working with a CEO, it's like you have what I call your kitchen cabinet, those 2 or 3 executives around you that you have to be able to go into a room and be completely real with. Not that you should be inauthentic with others, but you got to understand where you are and what the context is. But find those people around you, let them know where you are, and let them love you through it. Because the people around you want to help you. They're your best coaches, if you will, or encouragers. And so start by saying, who can I be vulnerable with? And let's just say you're hearing this and you realize, and by the way, I'm working on a project about this right now, about how to understand ourselves in a way that allows us to see the low-hanging fruit that we need to work on first. In the world of professional and personal development, it's so hard. Where do I start? And the working title of the book I'm writing right now is Start Here. And it's taking the first critical step toward getting better. And so get to know yourself and do that with some other people around you, and be open to the fact that, hey, I wonder if I have wounds that I'm either not aware of or that I think are strengths. I talk about, like, everybody has a limp, but sometimes we go, hey, look at this strut I have. And it's like, no, that's actually a limp. And let people go, no, that's a limp, boss or buddy. And it's just beginning to open that up and having that conversation. You'll inspire them to do the same for themselves as well. And, it gets back to this love thing. Like, if we go to work every day for 9 hours a day and we spend time with the people we work with, even if we're virtual, we're talking to them a lot, we are meant to develop a relationship with them. And the best way you can develop a relationship is by being vulnerable, by trusting your heart to somebody. And you don't walk down the street and do it with strangers. And if you have 20 people you're managing, you don't go to everybody and tell them everything. But there's got to be a core group of people that you can go, hey, I really want to get better. And I need people around me that understand that and that I can talk to about it.
Oh, I like this. There's 2 words that I heard you say, and it's start here.
Oh,
yeah. And so where does somebody start? So, the leaders that are listening have made it this far and they go, start here. Where do I start? Where do I even begin this whole journey and process? Walk somebody through that. Where do they start?
That's what I'm doing research about and writing about right now. But let me give you the shortcut so somebody could do that right away. I like to say, first of all, understand the person that you were made to be, that God made you to be. And then ask yourself, what is the gap between that and how you're living right now? And that gap is usually like, hey, what's that all about? So, and I'll give you a practical. Like, we have this thing called Working Genius, which is part of this, which is like, these are the things I love to do at work. Because a salesperson is not a salesperson, is not a salesperson. A sales manager is not a sales manager. We're all wired differently, and we do that differently. So understand your working genius. Then figure out your Myers-Briggs, which is more about your personality preferences. It's not your work necessarily, it's your personality preferences. So I'm what's called an inventor discerner in Working Genius, and I'm an ENFP in Myers-Briggs, which means I like to interact with others. I think up in the clouds. I'm emotionally driven, and I'm unstructured. Those 2 things alone will tell you a lot about who I am and how I do things. Well, then I look at my life right now and I say, how do I live my life? And if there's things that I'm doing that don't correspond to how I'm wired, that's usually a pretty good sign of why am I acting against my nature? I looked back in my life and I got straight A's in college. I should have never gotten straight A's, and high school too. I should have never got straight A's. My personality is the kind of person that should blow off a class when they don't want to go, or should say, yeah, I know that's what the syllabus says, but I'd rather learn this. I had to get A's. I had to grind. Every job I had to do well at. That was not how I was made to be, but it's how I lived. And that's where I found my wounds. I'm like, why have I been swimming upstream against my natural tendencies for so long? Oh, it's because I felt like I was never enough. And I thought maybe when I got to be 25, it would be enough. Oh, no, 35, 45, 55. And it's like, oh yeah, I'm still not enough. It's time to realize I'm enough. And so we all need to get back to that person we're meant to be. So find out who you are. I love Myers-Briggs and Working Genius. Look at how you live your life. And you could even go to your spouse or your friends or your colleagues and go, does this look like I'm acting like this? Is there anything that is incongruent here? Maybe that's something I need to look at.
Oh, that's brilliant. And I think that is such a practical exercise. I'm a personality profile junkie. So all of it, IWINTJ, all of it, love it.
You know what's beautiful about that, Darrell? I know something about you now. It's not, I'm not stereotyping you. I know how to interact with you, and I know how you were made and how you're wired. So I won't commit the fundamental attribution error.
Right.
Which is, if you do something that an INTJ and a WI would do, I'm not going to go, what a jerk, or why does he do that? Why? And it's like, he's wired that way. It's a feature. It's not a flaw. So anyway.
Well, I'm thinking about that too, in terms of like leaders coaching people or working with people to understand, and we're big fans of Working Genius around here. But to have data like that, and then to understand and look at the way somebody is wired, and then not only the job that they're in, to go, well, you're wired this way, but you're in this job, but also just the type of person, like going beyond just the role into their heart, if you will, or into that person's actual gifting. I think there's something beautiful there in seeing that delta as a leader with your people as well.
Yeah, it's so interesting because like we talk about love, and I really do think when you're a CEO or a head of sales or a manager of anything, you are called to love the people under your charge. Can you love somebody if you don't know them? And if you don't know what makes them who they are? You can't go, well, I love all my people. Well, are you loving them generically, or each of them is different? And so if you're managing somebody, you don't know what makes them tick and how they do when they're at their best, you can say, well, I intend to love them, but love is a verb, and you can't actually act on that verb if you don't know what the handles are.
Mm-hmm. This is good because I always question, and it goes back to this knowing. Do you know somebody? Or do you really know somebody and stretch out really? And that's where you start seeing, and that's where you start seeing the wheels start turning, whether you're a CEO, a sales leader, sales manager, all of a sudden you see their eyes you can see it in their eye movement, Pat. They go, you know what? I really don't. But that's the opportunity right there.
And the courage to go to people, because we talk to people all the time and say, I don't know. I'm sorry. You've worked with me for 3 years, and I know you, and I can repeat your kids' names. And I know your wife or your husband, but I don't think I'm really taking the time to really understand who you are. And I want to do it now. Because this is the problem. When I talk to leaders about this, they're like, oh crap, I haven't done this for 4 years. Have the courage to be vulnerable enough to say, I should have done this a long time ago. I wish I had. I feel bad that I haven't. I'm going to start now. No employee is going to go, well, screw you. They're going to be like, wow, you just acknowledge that. I'll do that. So
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, what an amazing conversation, Pat. If you could say one thing to the CEOs and leaders around culture as we wrap this conversation, what would you leave us with?
I would just say it starts with you, and without vulnerability, you're really limited. And that's true in personal relationships, in building a culture. It really starts with people need to know that their leader is willing to say, I know who I am. I know my good things. I know my drawbacks. I know that I've done good things. I know I've made mistakes. And when a leader can do that, the power that unleashes in the organization, because then other people can say, yeah, me too. I'll go too.
I love it. Pat, thank you so much for all that you do, for investing with us here today. This has truly been amazing.
Thanks for what you guys do. It's inspiring, and I'm so glad I get to be a part of it for a half hour today.
It's our pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. Larry, what an amazing conversation. I'm just leaving this, with two things that are in my mind going, know yourself and know your people. And, have the courage to go deep and really get to know yourself. That's where this all begins.
Absolutely. I want to play on courage and just add a word in there called bravery.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have these brave, courageous conversations with yourself as a leader.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always said, right, we got to open up that cupboard. You want your people to become better. It starts with having brave and courage conversations with yourself.
That's right. Well, thank you to everybody for joining us this week. We're on a mission to find the heart-centered companies and their leaders all over the world. If you know a CEO that would be a great fit for this conversation, just go to culturefromtheheart.com, nominate your CEO. And while you're there, make sure to get this week's show notes. We've got some great conversations coming up, Larry, and I'm so excited about all that's happening here at Culture from the Heart.
Yeah, absolutely. This all doesn't happen without your contribution to our community. So thank you.
Yeah. So we believe that culture is the heartbeat of every organization. And as Pat has reminded us, it's about knowing ourselves and knowing our people. So thank you for joining us today on Culture from the Heart. And until next time, lead with your heart and watch your culture thrive.
Thank you for joining us on this journey to discover heart-centered leaders shaping extraordinary company cultures. To access a leader guide with notes from this week's episode, simply click the link in the show notes or visit us at www.culturefromtheheart.com. Do you know a CEO who's built a culture from the heart? We'd love to hear their story. Head over to www.culturefromtheheart.com and click the Nominate Your CEO button. Until next time, remember, great cultures start with the heart.